So you were saying you started out with NASA and military, and then what happened?
Yeah, growing up, I was super into. I guess you could say I was into being a scientist. It started at. I guess it started in elementary because I went to Ke Akua Elementary, Hawaiian immersion school. And this is the hard part about being in immersion school at the time in the 90s. Um, they had the Hawaiian immersion and the English students on one campus, and the Hawaiian immersion we got outnumbered probably 3 to 1, and so when we went out for recess and stuff, it was like the Hawaiians against English, but all the English students were Hawaiians as well, and we kind of got dominated. And growing up, I kind of felt picked on always because I didn't really know how to read and write in English until maybe high school. And so, 3 to 1, we'd go out to recess and want to play on the playground, but there's 5 of us boys for the immersion side, and then about 20 other boys just picking on us and stuff. So I guess growing up like that, it's kind of different for me to be like, all proud about being Hawaiian, because I was so like depressed growing up because of it. And so when I graduated high school, I decided, you know what, I wanted to go be a pilot for NASA. I grew up in intermediate. I won a couple of NASA science fairs. I won the Onizuka Day science fair over here in intermediate, and it was about deep space propulsion and how we're gonna send materials into deep space. Kind of what they're doing with the Mars program right now. Go get them, guys. I mean, I'm super about this stuff, traveling and exploring the universe, but when it comes to building here on top of a sacred site like this, I'm totally against it. But like I said, I won a couple of science fairs, and I went to join the military. I was over in Kaneohe, walking to the Air Force recruiter's office, and right when I got there, he actually said, "Oh, I'm going to lunch. I'll be back." And, oh man! But thank God, right next door was the Marine Corps recruiter, and at the time I had no clue what the Marines were. I I thought they're just honor, courage, commitment, and the guy that climbs the rock and slays the dragons. But he just walked out. You ever thought about joining the Marines? And I, no. But on the door was a poster of a special forces guy, a reconnaissance man, and I said, if I can do that, I'll sign the papers right now, because I love skydiving. I'm a skydiver, I'm a scuba diver, and so he signed. He said, okay, come in, let's check your test scores. And thank God in high school I took the test, I guess, ASVAB. I scored pretty high, and so I actually got to join the Marines, and join a reconnaissance group and deploy with a recon team. So it's pretty intense. And I've been around the world so far. I've been to 27 countries and 42 states. And there's a lot of places that I've been that resembles this area. And some of the sacred places in the Middle East, when I was there, I was kicking people off of their land. When I was traveling with the Marines. And I know from the opposite point of view, we don't look at it from their side. And I remember this one day out on a mission. We're up in the mountains, just like Mauna Kea, and the fog came in, and it was a war zone. I was okay, and then back in June when they came up again, and we're at the top, and the clouds rolled in, and here are these guys right on the side. They got their malos on, their traditional attire. All of us are dressed in traditional attire, and I'm like, how amazing that it's still 2015 and we are holding it down the same exact way that the native Hawaiians did 2,000 years ago here on the mountain. When Kamehameha and that wasn't even that long ago. When he was traveling, we wore the same attire, malo, kihei, and we said the same chants, the same songs. And I think, when I got out of the Marines and I was kind of struggling with PTSD, and I was drinking a lot with my friends, and I was going out every night, and I got in, did stupid shit. And then I realized, I gotta get back to my culture. I'm Hawaiian, and I'm wasting this gift that I have. Because I always believe that, having a culture is such an amazing gift, because it gives you something other than yourself to fight for in life. And so I started dancing hula with Kawaili Ula. At the time, I had no clue who the hula hala was. My dad actually went to school with Chinky Mahoy, and he said, "Oh my, yeah, in Kailua, this one of my classmates, he's a kumuhula or something." And then I went down there and I started dancing hula with Chinky Mahoy, and maybe 3 months into dancing hula, I realized who these guys were. I'm like, oh, you guys are, they hold the most overall Merrimonic first place titles, and they are, when we look at it from a judge's point of view, from the competition, they are at the top. So I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I just did and I got myself into, but it was fun, energetic, athletic, and so I started dancing hula right out of the Marines. It's crazy. Because I was never into the cultural stuff growing up. I hated it. My dad, he's a master carver. I've been on Pu'ukohola Heiau in the middle of the night, pounding drums, crying because I don't want to be there. But now, I started dancing hula, and from that hula path, it led me back to this Mauna Kea thing, where, I started to get deeper into the song and the meles and the chants and actually feeling what it means to be Hawaiian, and not just, a lot of people dance to dance, but when you get that cultural feeling and you're in the zone and you realize, wow, this is a pretty significant dance, not only for Polynesian culture, but for around, for the world. And that's why Japanese love hula, because they realize the significance of the history. And it's amazing that we don't only talk about materialistic things like the king and he did this, but we also talk about spiritual stuff, like Ke Akua talked to a plant, and the plant turned itself into a canoe that let her get from Oahu to Kauai to retrieve Lohiau Ipo. And so that poetry behind the spiritual realm in hula is what brought me back to this spiritual place, which is Mauna Kea. And when I came up here, I didn't expect to feel the way I did. I had a lot of PTSD issues, I guess. Not that I had to go see anyone, but I did. And I just realized it maybe when I was up here on Mauna Kea, how much of a rough time I was having. And when I came up here and, I went to the top and I built an ahu with the guys, and then we stopped the DLNR from coming up, and the mist rolled in, and it reminded me of the Middle East when I was there kicking people off of their land. And telling them that we are invading your city. If you don't leave, we're going to kill you. And it brought me back to then, and I realized how much of a special place this is. Not only for Hawaiian culture itself, but how much it's for personal healing and personal growth for myself. And so, getting me back to a happy place in life, where I smile every day and I enjoy life, and it doesn't matter what hits me, because all I'm going to do is smile. That's what Mauna Kea is to me. That spiritual place that I realize that what I did with my life and all the evil things that I did, it's okay. It's all right. And that you shouldn't live with that pain and struggles in your life. So just come over here and protect this land, and that's the gift of enlightenment, I guess, for myself. So that's what Mauna Kea means to me.
So, two questions, one for your fellow Marines and one for the fellow Kanaka. So, what do you have to say to the Marines who took part in the 1893 overthrow, and now their obligation to assist the kingdom in its restoration?
It's funny. Anyway, this is my daughter, Leah. I actually had her right after I joined the Marines when I was 19. But it's funny because when I joined the Marines, at the time I didn't know who the Marines were, but I knew the story of the overthrow. And then when I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I'm joining the group that overthrew the Hawaiians. I'm like, oh my God.
And you really told the Middle Easterns that they had to leave or be killed? That was the orders?
Oh yeah, so the Battle of Fallujah, the first one, the invasion, there's a good documentary called 28 Days to Baghdad. And these war zones, like Fallujah is the most dangerous city in the world at the time, because that's where Al-Qaeda was hiding. And so, Fallujah and Ramadi. But there are signs in Fallujah, because there's a lot of civilians being killed over there just by stray bullets flying. When you're in Iraq, mandatory to leave base on yourself, on your person. You need 7 full magazines, and that's for anyone. That's not for infantry, you know. And when the infantry rolls out, not the I guess the force reconnaissance, because there's a little more specialty going into those guys. But when the infantry rolls out, they roll hard, they roll deep, and when they get into big gun battles, there's a lot of casualties on the civilian side. And one way that we have to protect them is to get them out of the area, because we need to get the terrorists out of the area. So the best way we can protect them is to say that on this day, we are going to come into the city. We are going to expect gunfire from whoever's in there, and we don't want you guys getting caught in the crossfire. So we don't tell them to leave or be killed. We kind of say the battle is going to start on, well, we're going to come into the city on this day, and this possibly could happen. If you guys could leave before that, you guys would be safe. After this day, we don't know what's going to happen, because, you know, grenades could go off, bombs could be dropped, bullets could fly through walls, because their walls are made out of clay. And so it's kind of like a safety precaution that we feel like we had to do. You know, it's like, oh, we can't just show up, because the bad guys are going to shoot at us, we're going to shoot at them, people are going to be in the town. And so we kind of like, all right, we kind of let the bad guys know when we're coming. It's like, oh, we're going to be here on this day. So if you're not a bad guy, please leave, because that's what we're coming to get.
And so now, what about the Marines' obligation to defend and protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic? And Hawaii was the first nation of many that were taken over by the Marines, or initiated takeover by the Marines. So what do you have to say to your fellow Marines?
I would say get educated. You know, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people lack, not only Marines or not only military members, is we don't know the education behind what happened.
So what happened as a force recon Marine to other Marines? What do you have to say to them? What's the education?
Look up the history behind Hawaii. You know, a lot of you guys aren't from Hawaii, but you guys come here and you guys stay here. You guys live on Kaneohe Marine Corps Base. And you know, I know a majority of us were young when we joined. We don't care about the history of where we are, because we don't know about it. And the thing that we have to do is we have to educate them about it. It's not what they have to do, because a lot of people don't know, because I'm Hawaiian. You know, I know the history behind what happened, and I still joined the Marines. Crazy. But that's because there's a lack of education. And you know, we're spending millions of dollars on war and going over there, and I swear to God, some military members are overpaid for doing nothing. There's a lot of, you know, there's some guys who stay on the base and never leave California, and they make so much money, while, you know, there's the infantry fighter who makes 1/8 of what they make. And, you know, just because a guy flies a drone, he makes 10 times as much as a guy that has to go in with force and kick a door down. So I think just, you know, we need to educate people. That's our thing, and that's why I'm here. You know, that's why I'm here.
What made the switch for you? You said the hula.
This one right there. You know, when I joined the Marines, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I am definitely an adrenaline junkie. I'm definitely good at everything that has to go with that job. And so about 2 to 3 years in, I realized, oh wow, this is my dream job. I wish I could do this forever. But then after my first deployment, I missed her second birthday, and I was like, oh no way, I can't do this. And I'm like, I cannot. I gotta go home. My cultural values are more important than me being away from my family. So, you know, that's pretty much it. Respecting your cultural values, yeah.
And then how did you actually get engaged with the Hawaiian Kingdom?
I showed up. That's all you got to do. I guess with the Hawaiian Kingdom people, that's kind of not my thing. That's not the reason I'm here. I'm not, you know, I am not a specialist in that. But I am a specialist in Malama Aina. You know, my family has always owned land. And I guess, you know, I have the ability to be here, so I'll come. If you can come, come. If you cannot, then support someone who can, you know.
And what can people expect here? What's the invitation and showing up involve?
Just show up and teach us something. Just show up and give us love. We're not asking for much. We don't want anything but your presence. We just want people to come and hang out with us and just listen and talk stories and be here, because that's what Mauna Kea is. Mauna Kea is that tool that's going to unite everyone. Not because we have something to offer, we can build something up here, not because there's a tent, but because when you come up here, you get connected to the spirit realm, you get connected to the rocks, and you get connected to the people. And you know, and that's what's going to heal the planet. We can't do it on our own. I'm just one guy. They're just one guy. We need everyone. So that's all we care about, is you show up. You don't need to bring anything, just get here, and that's all we care about.
Awesome.